one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, has council had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from August 24th and August 30th? If so, how do you wish to proceed?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any other discussion? With none, those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Are there any changes to this evening's agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for approval of the set agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Guests in open forum. Anyone here for guests in open forum this evening? Yes, go ahead. State your name and then your address and
My name is Brian Zachman. I live on 13202 Brenda Boulevard. I'm here about the fence variance. I know I went to the planning commission last week and I spoke what I had to say, but I wanted to reiterate again today. I got little kids. There's a side street. It's pretty busy. A lot of people walking by. That's the main reason why I want the 6-foot fence. That's the whole reason why I'm here. And I don't think it's unreasonable to have it where I want it. I know they went over some of the safety things that they were talking about, say cops being able to look in your backyard, or I found that to be a poor excuse because they don't see in anyone else's backyard. Why do they need to see in mine? Then the site of view for coming around the intersection, I'm nowhere near that. There's my shed there, which I can't go in and out of very fast, and I know there's a lot of people there, that walk by, so I go slow on purpose. The other things that they were worried about was looks. Somebody had mentioned that having a fence on both sides makes it look more like an alleyway. Well, there's no fence on the other side of the road, so I don't see that as an issue. And the neighbor to the north, granted it wasn't permitted, but their fence is about a foot or two off the sidewalk, and that's about where I want it to be. It'll actually be further away from the sidewalk because it jogs over, but and there's trees in the way of where I'm allowed to put it, and I don't think it's unreasonable to not want to go inside my yard. I'd like to maximize the inside for the kids and whatever else I need. So I'd like to go towards the street side of those trees, and that's why. Again, that's why we're here. One other thing that they had mentioned last week, they were concerned that if the variance was allowed, that there was going to be more applicants about this situation, and there's talk about revisiting the ordinance, changing it, whatever. But again, I felt like, and I'm not trying to attack anyone, but I just felt like that was a poor excuse. That's kind of your job, and I just felt like that was not a great excuse. Other than that, I guess that's all I got. So thank you for your time.
all right. Anyone else for open forum? All right, hearing none, we'll move into committee reports. Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance met August 25th. We went over the financials, which were through July. So we did receive our first half settlements. So we receive our money twice a year, with the first half coming 70% in June, the other 30% in July. That has been received now. The community center is one we've been monitoring closely, obviously, and that is continuing to move in the right direction. Not quite as quickly as golf, but it is moving in the right direction, so that's good. Golf has been reported many times, continuing to have an excellent year. No big shock. Water revenues are up. due to usage. One of the things we looked at is, we looked at a investment portfolio review, which was, just kind of, when we have cash, where does that get, put? That's something we'll probably do on more of a quarterly basis, not really something we'll do like monthly or anything, but it was the first time we'd seen it in a while. Just an update on the, we talked about the short-term lending possibility that, may be needed for, if the timing comes in with the projects, just kind of an update on that. There's no request at this time, and, so we're just kind of an update on that. Talked about, past due utilities. I think we discussed at the last meeting, water shutoffs are gonna resume, this month. I believe those are starting, with contact early this month, and, we have been monitoring the level of it, throughout. This is something we started, last year, kind of right as the pandemic, kind of took hold, just to make sure that, if we saw a big spike or something, to try and keep on top of it. And, that's something we've been continuously monitoring. There has not been a big spike, so to speak. So, so those will move forward later this month. Just for some brief discussion about, moving into PCI compliance, which has to do with, taking of credit cards and stuff. So this is like, at the golf course, community center. Some of our vendors already are there. It's just a matter of, it's more like a checklist, if anything. I mean, we're doing the items for it, so it's just, going through and actually checking the list and say, okay, did you do this? Yep, we are. Okay, now you're PCI compliant. So, because Sean's in IT and IT sits under, finance, so we got the report on that. And we talked about, we just had some updated numbers on the golf simulator project, which we had at our special meeting. So, but this was prior to that, so we had some updated numbers there. And that's what I got for budget finance.
All right. On August 26th, we hosted the Senate Capital Investment Committee tour here at City Hall. And we had a number of community partners in attendance with the Senate capital improvement individuals or committee members. And we discussed how the Becker Interchange project would be a great one to fund due to the improvements of the safety and the connectability of 52 and 25 over the train and over the Highway 10. And remember, the ask is for the engineering aspect and the plans and the specs, not to actually build it at this time. But the meeting went very well. It was their second to last stop, so they were, on their wind down, but it went really well. So, anything else to add on? No? All right, how about the police committee?
Police committee, we met Friday morning, August 27th, 0700 hours.
Early.
Yep, early. Well, 8 o'clock for some of us that were on the East Coast, but, so, good news, the police department is, fully staffed. That is, something that, no surprise, police hiring is, across the nation is has been challenging, and we're no exception, but, we're sitting, pretty good with our staff right now, and, we've not had, we've always covered the shifts, but when you're understaffed and you want to take time off, things like that, and you can't take the time off, and it's okay if you're covering for somebody for a season, but if it's 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, you can't get your time off, that tends to wear on people, and so so from as far as the public's concerned, I mean, we've always staffed, but it's it's very important for morale to be fully staffed, and so we are, and that's a good thing. Part of that includes our 2 recent hires. A lot of times when we hire, we a lot of times we'll people coming straight out of like Alex Tech, out of the academy, if you'd say. And our 2 most recent hires have actually come from other departments, and they bring experience with them. And so this has transitioned. When we hire, the new people always ride with somebody until they're at a point where they determine, okay, you can be on your own now. And obviously, when you're hiring experienced officers, that point comes pretty quickly. So that has helped to they're both out on their own now, and covering shifts on their own. So as we saw, Chris Lindblom was promoted to the lieutenant position. He's gonna continue doing the investigator duties for now, but he's gonna kind of do both duties. So the lieutenant position is gonna be one more of a second shift, if you wanna think of it. And so he's gonna be kind of going back and forth between both, where he'll do some of the investigator work, which is obviously during the day more, but he's also gonna be doing, you know, a couple of the shifts at night, that kind of a thing. So, kind of as he transitions there. Talked about the ATV ordinance, we had just an update on it. There's been, as of, August 27th, there was, 16 applications. Chief Balloon has been individually letting folks know of the rules, just to kind of communicate with them. No issues, that have been reported. And also, they're looking at, chapter 9 and chapter 10 as far as ordinance updates. They're going through and doing reviews on them. And so that's something we could be seeing some updates coming through in the future. Stats were up slightly from 2020. Oh, I should say one more thing on the ATV ordinance. There was a question which we never really thought of, and that was on outside of the city permits. You know, what if somebody from Becker Township wants to have a permit? And so it wasn't, I don't think something we never talked about at the police committee, never really thought of it. At first, because it was not addressed, the chief had denied them, but after talking through with the committee, it was just something that we didn't see an issue with. It doesn't, if they're coming from township, I mean, if they live over at Carefree or something, they still have to follow all the rules to get here, so it's not like, you know, we're giving them any kind of a special pass or anything. It just says, you know, once your car gets here, yeah, you can drive it, you know, in town, but you're still subject to all the other rules. So, and there were several that were requested of that, so. Let's see, 2022 budget, talked about that briefly. We also talked about the, there's a co-responder program, so this is a, we'll call him a mental health therapist that, works with the county, and he, I think it's a he, this person, rides with one of our officers twice a week. They ride with, it's the county is with 3 cities, and so this person rotates amongst the 3 cities and rides with officers a couple shifts a week with each city. And this is more for responding to mental health issues. So if we get a mental health type call, this person would come along with the police and you know, assist when necessary. Obviously, if this, let's say the person is in Zimmerman and we had a situation here and that the person could come here as well. And so that, you know, we talk about how does that work logistically with transport. You know, obviously if it's the other way around, we aren't responsible to bring somebody to Zimmerman all the time. So they're, you know, they've already worked on how they would do that. But mainly too, this person, because this person lives and breathes the mental health world, they know where the resources are and can oftentimes get, you know, if you know, if it's family services or something, they can start those services a lot quicker because they know exactly where to go. They know about all the programs. So they're, you know, more of a resource than anything, and so that has been going really good. So that was all I had. Unless you,
I got a question. Back to the ATV thing. We passed this ordinance that allows them to operate ATVs on the city streets. Are they allowed to operate on the roads in the township and the county?
I don't know the answer to that. It's not
Because if
nothing
they're
we
not
would,
allowed to operate there, our permit does not grant them that right.
correct, and that was that's been made clear to them that it's just a permit within the city. Outside of the city, that's
I just caution. This is word of caution is all. That's all I got.
All right, how about planning commission?
Planning Commission will be a much quicker report. We did, so we met last Monday. We had the public hearing for the Brian Zachman, the gentleman that just spoke here, of the fence ordinance there. We'll have that on our agenda for tonight, so I won't go into detail there. We also called for a public hearing on some edits on Chapter 11. And we also gave staff direction, speaking of fences and fence ordinances, we did give staff direction to bring back more information at the next month meeting about, we're gonna revisit the fence ordinance, so we're gonna,
Review the fence ordinance to look at, see if we can make some changes to that.
Yep.
To recommend to the council.
so. That was what we have for planning commission.
All right, any other committee reports? None, we'll move into board, committee, and consultant reports. The first one up is Snuffy's Landing Park Pavilion with Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We've been working with the Lions for quite some time on Snuffy's Landing, what we call kind of the naming rights to Snuffy's Landing, and creating a Lions Park in Becker. Part of that, their commitment has been to donate roughly $3,000 a month to the city for purposes of capital improvements at Snuffy's Landing. Their first item on the agenda is a park pavilion. They would like to see a structure out there. So we've been working, we've done some landscaping. We're working with the DNR, currently working with staff on a variance. We've got a verbal from the DNR for the position of the pavilion. And tonight I'm coming to you to see if you guys would support moving the pavilion forward. Since the Lions donate the money to the city, now city funds, and we need to get approval to spend those funds. And so in front of you, we've got plans for the pavilion. It's a similar structure to what you see at the BAC. The difference is we're lining the underside or the ceiling with steel as well. We don't want to have too many birds nesting up above inside the pavilion. So by doing that, we feel that we'll eliminate that. We'll also put concrete in the floor and then put a minimum of a 5-foot sidewalk all the way around the perimeter as well. The positioning of the pavilion is such that we would look to be available to add on to it at some point in time. The long-term vision would be to be able to put some form of permanent restrooms on the backside of that. And whether we would do a pump station there, so they would come and do a septic pump or something like that. But again, we're just trying to get something established out there for the Lions, working on some signage as well. And so in front of you tonight, we're looking to do this. Right now, we do have a fund balance of $33,000 in that dedicated account. It is isolated. The finance team has kept that separate for us. We give the Becker Lions an audit report whenever they request one, at a minimum twice a year. We just give them one so they know that. Like I said, this is their #1 project on their list, and pending approval tonight, we'll move forward with the permit process. Like I said, we got a verbal on the variance. We're out of the FEMA floodplain, and the DNR, I've walked through them twice on the site. They like what we're doing down there. They like that we're trying to keep it very kind of nature friendly. And as long as it's outside of the FEMA map, which we reviewed twice with them, they're all in favor of this project. So we got the verbal, which is good, but now the variance process will give us the actual documented approval from them as well. So the reason I'm coming to you tonight without the variance is we'd like to try and get some things in position. We do have commitment from Lumber Supply and the builder of the pavilion. We're holding off on the concrete yet, depending if this does move forward, depending on the seasonality of that and what the weather looks like. We don't want to put it down when it's too cold out, and we may have to push the concrete to spring.
How high up the hill are you going with this?
If you've been out at Snuffy's recently, it's kind of a funny story. We were going to put playground equipment kind of down by the road, and Al, bless his soul, he kind of got carried away with that. So the wall got a little bit bigger than we thought. And as we were looking at that, before we put any equipment there, we were standing there looking at the river, and I said, this would be a perfect spot for the pavilion. Let's take a look at that. So we brought representatives of the Lions down there. They loved it. And that's when we brought the DNR down there to take a look at it. So we are about 5-foot elevation from the road that leads to the landing, where the base of the floor would be sitting.
Do you remember the cabin that used to be out there?
I do not.
Okay.
So, but we're going to ask for stories. Well,
It's
John,
too long ago.
John,
Triangle stories here?
one of our
Before
goals.
1986, or, yeah.
But one of our goals with the pavilion is, once we have a structure out there, is to put a history wall in there so we can have the residents tell the story of how Snuffy's came to be, how it evolved, and how, all of those things, because the next generation is losing those stories, and there's a lot of people out there that want to hear that. So we will be asking for stories like that.
Sorry, we have
So-
Mike.
I
Start
grew
writing
up
it
there,
up.
actually.
Who are you? You grew up there? In that
The cabin.
No,
Oh, jeez, and we're like, did you have
spent the
water?
summers down there. All summer long, all we do is go down to the river and fish.
It may have been the
Kid.
YMCA back then.
Did, who are you, seeking a variance from exactly?
The city is the controlling party because it's property in the city, even though it's XL property. So the process starts here, and it has to DNR because it's the river bank or the wetland. They're the ones that have to give comment on that. And that's why first I thought we had to go through the DNR, but because the city is the planning authority, thank you. For that, we have to go through that process. So I've done all the paperwork with Jacob, and that'll come to planning commission, I believe, the 27th.
What are you asking for a variance for?
The setback from the river.
What is it supposed to be, or what?
Comfortably, I believe we talked like 150 feet, and we're looking at about 78 feet.
Okay, so you are, okay, that's why I was asking about the cabin, because, that has flooded in the past.
Well, sure, it's within a floodplain.
Yeah, and the DNR's concern, and that's why we brought it out there, was so the FEMA flood map goes about 2 feet south of the road going down to the landing. And it follows that landing mark. Once you actually get into the landing, it comes up and covers the landing and goes to that little bay area and covers there. But the FEMA flood map shows that the area that we're looking at will be about like 25, 28 feet removed from that, and we've elevated it about 5 feet, 5.5 feet.
Oh,
above that.
you've raised it up already? Oh.
Yeah, so when he looked at that, and the DNR's been great. So, like I said, when they met us out there, he said, parks need pavilions. We need to get people out here. He says, everything you're looking to do is great. I love it. I have no issues with it. I said, put it in writing. And he said, I will, but start the process so we make a formal comment on that. So that's what we're trying to do.
So is it a city ordinance that's 150 feet? Who has the ordinance that it's 150 feet that you're?
It's a state, isn't it?
It's city, but it's adopted by the state, or the state, and then the city adopts the state regulations typically.
Okay, so it's a city ordinance that mirrors the state. Okay.
I was ready for a battle, so I went a couple of weekends and looked at Ellison Park and Monticello and Westbridge Park and Monticello. There's another one out at Seago that have pavilions closer than what we're looking to do without elevation. And I didn't need to use it because they're saying everything that we're proposing is on par with what they would like to see in the park anyhow. So, but the variance is going to come through planning commission.
Yeah, the big thing is residents, when you have this septic system and stuff like that. That's where the big issue is.
Right.
And even if you do put a restroom facility in there, it's a pump station, it's not gonna affect anything.
Yep,
So-
we're not fully enclosing, we're not going below grade structure or anything like that, so.
Is the city building this, or will it be the Lions generaling it?
The part of the decision that we made with the Lions was because they don't have staff members and it's all volunteer based, that we would control the construction portion of that, but they fund all the dollars. So
Okay.
I'll run point on this through the contractors, which isn't, we've worked with Lincoln Builders before on a few other projects. So he's excited, he wants to do this in his hometown, so Kurtz Concrete wants to do the project as well. And Country Lumber has already updated their pricing list, which I included tonight.
It's not uncommon for the Lions to do this. We've done projects through the church where the Lions want somebody to take charge of it. And, because they won't give the money directly to somebody, somebody's gotta take the lead.
Yep. The Lions have really seen this as a huge legacy project for them, having that park and having something to, they need to keep a lot of their funding locally anyhow, but this is a real tangible item that we put Lions heads on a couple of the other structures that they've donated for the city, and they've really appreciated that gesture as well. Again, we've asked for them, they've provided them, we've adhered them to the parks, so we can get their name out there. They do a lot of good things in the community, so we're excited to partner with them and really showcase them at this park and show them what it's all about. So.
Okay. How does council wish to proceed?
One final question. So planning commission will have the variance in front of them last meeting in September, which puts that coming to council first meeting in October, does that mean we're really not starting construction until early October, or what are we doing there?
Nope, if planning commission, if we get the variance approval on October 4th, we will get the structure in place this year. I have a commitment from Lincoln Builders. We don't know about the concrete though. If we have a mild weather, we'll put the concrete down. If we don't, we'll hold off on that. I don't wanna have any flaking or pop issues over winter. It's not worth it, so, nor do I like to pay for heated and chloride and all that stuff, so
Yep.
Do you have a resolution for that? No.
I do not.
Need a motion.
Just a motion.
Motion, I make a motion, we, authorize staff to proceed with the project at Snuffy's Landing, the pavilion.
Second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin to approve the build-out of the pavilion at Snuffy's Landing. Any questions or? All those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thanks. Fence height variance for Brian and Deborah Zachman with Mary.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The City of Becker has received an application for variance for the property located at 13202 Brenda Boulevard from owners Brian and Deborah Zachman. The subject property is zoned single-family residential. Fences are permitted at various heights and setbacks within the single-family residential zoning district. This property is a corner property, which by city code has 2 front yard setbacks, one for each side facing the street, and then 2 side yard setbacks. 1 written public comment was received for this proposal, and 3 residents spoke at the public hearing, one of which was the applicant. The variance requests a height variance from the fence, from 4 feet to 6 feet in the proposed location. Essentially, this is a request that the front yard be considered or treated as a side yard. The Planning Commission considered the 3-factor statutory test for variances. Planning Commission found that this proposal does not satisfy the 3 factors. As such, Planning Commission did recommend denial of the variance application via PC Resolution 2114. And staff is seeking a motion and a second approving Resolution 2174, which would deny the variance application before you. If there are any questions or...
I don't have a question, but I do want to reiterate that we are committed to reviewing the code and possibly making a recommendation change down the road. However, as she said, we determined that it did not meet the requirements necessary for a variance.
What was the discussion in regards to the code discussion coming up?
Well, actually, I think the majority of the committee, I think, was in favor of what he wants to do. What he's asking is not out of line, but it doesn't, we don't have the authority to overrule an ordinance. So we are committed to looking at it and maybe making a recommendation for a change where, because, and our main concern is if we recommend changing this, everybody's gonna be coming looking for variance on an ordinance. It's it's set how it's supposed to be done. That's the way we went along with it. And then down the road, if the city council chooses to change the ordinance, then that's fine.
Mary, could you give a little bit more info to me in regards to the ordinance that you'd plan to discuss? Like, normally, we're looking at somebody that only wants to put a 4-foot in, and when they have a pool, it requires a 6. So this is,
It's a little different.
it's a little different, so.
Right, so just a quick note, a pool would require a 4-foot.
Oh, yes,
Not
because we
6 foot.
changed
Yeah,
it.
yep.
Yeah, we changed it, right.
So staff is looking at different codes all across the board. We are finding that this 4-foot, 2 frontage corner lot is the standard. We're going to be looking at more as the month goes on because it is at the end of September here. But because of the frontage, because you're adjacent to right-of-way, your buildings are set back, and the setback of a fence, because a fence is accessory to that primary structure, the setback of that accessory use is based on your location of your primary structure. So that's what code currently is that you can match it up with the facade at that 6 feet. If you wanna go closer than that, you can have a 4-foot fence. So staff is currently reviewing those. We are finding a lot of it is 4 feet, in a front yard area. But we're definitely looking at, all options and, what we can possibly move from to address corner lots. But again, it would be at our late September meeting that we're looking at those
So
possible changes.
could the possible ordinance change allow the property owner not to get a variance, but to put the 6-foot fence in?
So.
It
Not
could.
so, not so sure, because this is the property where the city put a street in, and so they already took away all their setbacks. So is that they had to grant variances already just for the buildings when they put that street in. And so I don't know if this would meet the criteria, without that.
Right, and to reiterate, this is a height variance, so he can have a fence at the proposed location, but it would need to be 4 feet. The request is that it is 6 feet instead. So,
Yeah, the only variance he's asking for is the height, right?
height,
Yeah.
yep. So he can have the fence, it just would need to be limited at 4 feet because by code it is a dual frontage lot on a corner.
But the height would not be addressed in the proposed ordinance discussion for next month?
It could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing there, and I don't wanna promise, but there is a possibility. You could have discussion next month and planning commission says, okay, let's allow for 4 feet on a side lot. And it comes to a future council meeting and we make an ordinance change, and what he's asking for today, is not in the current ordinance, but it could be in the future. Yes, that is a possibility. I just wanna clarify that we don't change ordinances. Ordinances cover the whole town. We don't change them per property. That's a very, legal thing. We don't do spot zoning. So we just gotta make sure we cover that we change it for the whole town, so.
Yeah, if it changes, it would change for everybody.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just seeing if what's being proposed
We don't have a proposal
could
yet.
be addressed.
We don't have a proposal.
We just asked staff to start the discussion basically, which usually would be go look at other ordinances, bring that, back to us in September. So we asked to start the discussion in the next meeting. That was as far as we got.
Okay.
But as far as this meeting here, we have to go by, what the ordinance is on the day of application, so.
Yeah, and then if it matches the 3-factor test or not.
Yep. And the second factor is always the toughest, because that is the uniqueness generally relating to the physical characteristics of the property. So something that's unique to your property that wasn't, like if you build a house in a certain spot, that's you or the previous landowner, their choice.
Having 2 fronts isn't unique?
Because the fence will be
Corner
going
lot.
in after the fact.
It's a corner lot. When the house was built, it was not a corner lot, but it is now.
If the fence were there and then you're putting in the street, that's a different story, but if the street's there and then you're asking to put in the fence, then that's.
Yep, and the same code does apply across all corner lots. A unique situation may be sloping topography or wetlands, something like that, in which you obviously didn't put in the wetland or.
Something you have no control over.
Right.
Just trying to figure out what a solution for corner lot people are. I mean, this is a property owner that wants to put in a fence, but not just to our standard 4, but to go above and beyond what our ask is to 6. So I just want to see if there's even the possibility of that discussion to happen, or if it could change that the
It
property
definitely-
owner
Well,
could
we
do
definitely
stuff.
are gonna talk about it, and there is other options with that too, because some of them have a 6-foot fence, but you got a see-through portion. So that, you know, that's another option too, so.
We go
We definitely are gonna address it, there's no question about it, so,
And that'll be in September.
as soon as we can, whatever.
I would encourage the property owner to attend that meeting as well.
So if we have something in September, then that we would have a consensus, then we could bring something to council in October, but a lot of times these usually do take a couple months. But
Yeah, I was gonna say, we would have to have a public hearing on that anyway.
So it'd be discussion, this next meeting would be discussion, the following meeting, if we settle on something, would be public hearing. And
Yeah,
So it would be
Well, that really kind of sucks timing-wise.
fix it in the winter.
Yeah.
know.
But that, you know, that's the best we can do in all reality.
It's the timing of the government agencies,
It's not conducive for
Especially to
most
the-
people.
public hearing to the process. Okay.
I think, we can, without you saying anything else, I think, you expressed the same sentiment that planning commission had.
Yeah, it's kind of a raw deal.
Right.
And trying to fix it just takes a lot of governmental time. But I wanted to make sure that we were able, if there is a successful outcome, if you had to deny the variance today, if it would be taken into consideration that the property owner would not have to seek another variance, but if the ordinance changed, if it would accommodate the request.
Right.
So that's the why I was asking so many
The ordinance
questions.
changed, let's say, what he's asking for, let's say the ordinance changed and all of a sudden that was allowed December 1st, you wouldn't need a variance anymore, you just
Right.
build your fence.
Right.
He
Yeah.
would,
We need a fence permit.
yeah, revise the fence permit. He does have a fence permit for in line with the house, currently, so it would be revising that permit.
Okay. Ugh. Any other questions for Mary? What were the other, you said there were 3 other neighbors. They were all
It was
supportive?
Mr. Zachman and then 2 other neighbors. One was supportive and the other was supportive as well, but they were more here for the meeting, or they came to the meeting for their personal questions on their personal property as well, so.
Okay,
And then the one written public comment stated that they would prefer the fence to be set 10 feet back.
10 feet further back than what is proposed?
Correct. Or, sorry, I think they just said 10 feet back. Yep, it's in the packet, the email's included, but permitted it be at least 10 feet from both streets at the corner, is the wording in the email from one of the neighbors.
I'll make a motion and then I have a comment before we go to a vote. So I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2174, which is a resolution denying the variance application.
I'll second that.
motion from Rick, second from Mike.
Then the comment, so in some of the other, when we've had situations where, we've had folks applying and there's maybe been questions on variances, things like that, and it's come up to the end of the construction season, we've worked with them, you know, say over the winter, so this, you know, so we, so I would ask that, we work with Mr. Zachman,
Yeah, like that his permit gets extended into.
yeah.
Oh, yep. Yep, there's no expiration date on that fence permit, so
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're not out there, you know, tomorrow,
that would be fine, yeah, absolutely.
which
Yeah, any
we're good about that,
questions?
but I just wanna make sure that that's.
Yeah, I thought about that as well, and I was gonna, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from council? If not, those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Mr. Zachman, I know this isn't out of the ordinary, just wanted to make sure that you understood the discussion that took place up here. It's hopeful that the September meeting there'll be discussion revolving this. If it does move forward, there'll be a public hearing. We would encourage, since you're a property owner that fits that dialogue, that would be great if you partook. And then Mary's gonna keep your permit open so that, you know, you can get that fence built and keep those kids safe in their backyard. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Administrator and staff reports. We have the property sale with Potter Investments LLC with Miss Flipson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So at the last meeting, we did do a property lease with TJ Potter Trucking that also noted that they may purchase the property in the future. So that is moving forward quicker than we had anticipated. Part of that reason is because the two properties that they were leasing that they're interested in purchasing, they actually want to combine with their existing property. So just with that platting process, it is best to sell them that property first, so that way through title and everything else, that plat can take all three parcels and combine them into one. So that is the main reason we're moving forward at this meeting with presenting the purchase agreement with Potter. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we are requesting a motion and second to approve Resolution 2175. This authorizes that purchase agreement and then the sale of the property to Potter Investments LLC.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2175, authorizing the purchase agreement and sale of the property owned by the City of Becker to Potter Investments.
I'll second that.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Establish the 2022 preliminary levies with Mr. Ebensteiner.
Hi.
Makes me
Give me a
nervous.
minute
Oh,
to get.
now I know why.
Makes me nervous when he puts his suit on.
Yeah. Is this your first time presenting to council or the second?
The second.
Yeah. All right, well, he has set the limit in the,
Yeah.
he set the bar for apparel
Ebensteiner,
presentations.
Get to use our monitor, huh?
As the public works guy, Phil looks comfortable with what he's wearing. Yeah, if he was wearing a suit and a tie, then we'd be worried. All right. Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. As he had mentioned, I'm here to present the 2022 preliminary levy. So following my presentation, we will ask Council to consider the adoption of a resolution establishing the levy for 2022. We've had several executive sessions putting everything together. I kind of came in kind of midway through that, so I've been had the ability to be in some of the CIP meetings and as well as some of the remaining operating discussions. So we've really, dove into the deep details, asked a lot of questions in those sessions. So tonight will be much more of a summary level discussion, but can also answer any detailed questions as well. So with that, diving into a breakout of the proposed levies, here's a summary of all the separate levies. So the total levy for 2022, we're looking at $8,986,205. Which is an increase of $855,709 from 2021, right around 10.5% in the overall. Some items to highlight, we are a service-oriented business. So on the people side, one of the assumptions, we have included a 3% general wage increase with step increases as scheduled, 5% healthcare benefit increase, and 15% increase in workers' comp. Focusing, starting on the general fund, on the people staffing side, we did hire administrative support specialist, part-time in 2021. That position will move to full-time in 2022. We will have some changes in some grading of positions and some additional part-time hours. Police has an additional full-time position in the budget, and we also have an additional $50,000 available for the implementation of the compensation study that was approved to move forward. The one other item I'll highlight in the general fund, which we've discussed in the executive sessions. On the professional services side, we have increased some budgeting for some of those expected costs. On the engineering and legal side, we have been fairly lean in prior years, so we looked at what we really need in some of those budget line items and increased to what they should be. The fire department is very consistent with prior year. EDA, I'll touch on that. That's one that we increased slightly from our prior exec session up to $215,000. So the EDA levy is capped at a percentage of overall market value. It's 0.0185% of total market value. So as that market value increases, so can you increase your levy. And we have looked at maximizing that levy in the past, and that'll fund some future property improvements and future development. So we will see an increase right around 10% to get to that 215. So that's really the max, depending on where that total market value comes in when the county certifies. That can change slightly as well. On the community center side, small percentage and small dollar amount, but I just wanted to highlight the community center. You know, they have really worked on cost containment with COVID the last fiscal year. So just highlighting there, we were able to decrease that levy a little from 2021. Pebble Creek, there we see a significant levy reduction, right around 119,000, almost 60%. Won't dive into the details as it is on the Gulf side, but just a reminder, there is a part-time admin support specialist at 25 hours a week included in Gulf. And we did assume there's about 85,000 of some clubhouse building improvements that are reinvested in 2022. So looking at reinvesting some of those future operating into the day-to-day. Debt service levy really just comprises the 2021A scheduled debt levy, and then the capital levy saw the increase of the 393,000, which I'll go into a little more detail on the next slide.
Question for you before you go.
Yeah.
Did I hear you correctly? You said a 15% increase in workers' comp?
Yeah, it's the dollar amount. Laura, do you recall?
About across the board, it comes up to about a $15,000 increase, and it is based on our rates of how we are utilizing workers' comp this year. So we did.
So we've had claims, basically, is what you're saying.
Correct. We're still below the rating of 100, but you want to be below 100 because it means that you're performing better than.
Okay. It just seems like quite a jump was all mine. Caught my attention.
Great, thank you. So this slide summarizes the pieces of the 2022 capital improvement levies. So there you see the breakouts. Total levy at $2,617,223. It's broken out into the different categories. You know, primarily the capital levies are included. You know, public works and streets is a large item. The 1.6 million. Really, that's what we have done is really took a deep dive into what that capital improvement need is. We have a great schedule, 5 to 10 year future, and really looking at identifying levies that support not only the upcoming year, but then the future plan down the road. So it's getting sufficient funding so we can respond to changes. There's times when projects pop up and we'll have the reserves available to strategize on those. So overall, the 2.6 million capital levy for 2022. So now let's take a look at tax capacity rates. So after the levy amount is identified, which we've discussed, the additional portion is really to determine the rate is your total taxable value or total taxable market value, and then the net tax capacity. So each year we do have property owners who do appeal their valuation, and our initial assumptions were based on a conservative approach. So we had looked at where some of those appeals had ended up over prior years, and then we took a conservative approach to estimate some of those preliminary numbers. Just as an update, some of those appeals were settled in late August, so we did get some better, more reliable information. So we were able to update both our total market value and then our net tax capacity estimates, at least at this time, based on the best information we had. So with the revised figures, the city preliminary tax capacity rate is at 44.311%, and that's down from our initial calculation of 45.296. So the 44.311 is a 4.15% increase from the prior year rate, which was 42.56. And then as mentioned, the preliminary EDA levy is capped as a percentage of total taxable market value. So based on maximizing that levy with some of those modifications to our estimates, we were able to increase that to the rate of the 1.086%, which is a 3.7% increase from the prior rate of 1.047. And as you're aware, these are preliminary rates, so we should see some once the county certifies those values, we'll get a better snapshot of what that looks like. But we do feel good with the information that was provided. We had received initial total preliminary from the county, and then with working through some of those different models, we were able to put together some good estimates. So then what do those tax rates mean to a homeowner within the city? So here's a summary of the top in the blue. That's our 2021 city property taxes. And then we have the market values broken out by $50,000 increments on the left. And then as you're aware, the homestead market value exclusion does decrease as your market value goes up. So the line item I'll highlight is, we'll start on the $250,000, the second line down. So a $250,000 house, tax capacity of $2,353 after applying the tax rate, have had 2021 property taxes of $1,001. So then the next section down for 2022, this would take into our new tax rate of the 44.311. With no change in market value. So if your house maintained its same market value, that same person owning family owning a $250,000 house would have the same market value exclusion and would see a total property tax in 2022 of $1,043, so an increase of $42 annually, about 4.1%. And then the 7.2%, the bottom chart, this is what the county had provided as their preliminary estimate of the residential change in market value. So that same $250,000 house, after applying the market value increase of 7.2%, would have a taxable market value of $268,000. Based on the increase in market value, they would have a smaller homestead market value exclusion, and then applying the tax rate. They would see a tax bill of $1,129, an increase of $128 annually. So I won't go into more detail, but that kind of walks you through the chart and gives you an impact of
The
what
biggest
those new
increase
rates.
is the increase in value, actually. It's not our tax. It's not our percentage, it's the increase in value is which causes the biggest increase.
Yeah, right. Yep. So really the $42 in that second chart for that $250,000 house, that's just the levy, and then that bottom would bring in that value change. All right, and then we'll also touch on the commercial industrial side. So similar chart, the way it's laid out, that top in blue identifies the 2021 tax rates and market values. So there, just for simplicity, let's look at that second line down. $1 million market value, applying the tax rate. Here, the EDA levy is also applied, so we do have that city local referendum rate. So there, that $1 million property would see a property tax bill at $18,344. With no value change in the new rates, in that second section down, they would see a total tax of $19,059, an increase of $715 per year, about 3.9%. And then the bottom, with that value increase of $1,092,613 total taxable market value, applying the new rates, including the EDA, would see the total of the $20,886 increase of $2,542, or right around 14%. So that summarizes kind of the commercial side as well, gives you a
I thought
snapshot.
the commercial didn't go up this last year. I thought it actually went down a bit.
This is commercial and industrial together, right?
Combined.
I think industrial went up, commercial did not, I think
Is
was,
that what it was? Okay.
or commercial was very, very stagnant.
I know the residential went up way more than what some of the business stuff did, I know.
Yeah, it's a great question. The more we work with the county and understand how they stratify, we'll, in the future, continue to bring better information. If we can bring, what our local median value home is, or, what our commercial looks like, that would give us a more in-tune snapshot of how these
In the
rates
spring, we
change.
do that every year in the spring when
Yeah,
the county comes and they go over, that's where I got that number out of my head was the increase in values and whatnot, but the county does a pretty good job keeping us up to date on that.
all right, so that's my presentation. So, wrapping up, really just looking at a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2173, setting the preliminary levies for the city and EDA. And then also within that resolution, it would set the public hearing for the truth in taxation for December 7th at 6 p.m. And with that, I can answer any additional questions.
December 7th, huh?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2173, setting the pros property tax levies for 2022 for City of Becker.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Mr. Przezinski.
Mayor, City Council, thank you. Consent agenda, we do have a revised consent agenda for September 7th, so please take note of that. Item number 1, hiring and termination reports from the Becker Community Center, our Public Works Department, and Pebble Creek Golf Club. Item number 2 is partial pay request number 1 to Pembroke Companies. Remember, that is for some modifications down at our wastewater treatment facility. Construction contract amount in the amount of $247,370. This pay request in the amount of $111,245, leaving a contract amount of $136,125. Item number 3 is partial pay request number 1, and that is to American Liberty Construction. And remember, that's for our well field, so that is underway. Contract amount for construction, $1,336,022.80. This pay request, $120,597.64, leaving a contract for construction, $1,215,425.16. Item number 4 is for construction assistance. That's oversight services for the golf simulator project that the City Council approved last week. And then item number 5, water restriction extension. That'll go through the end of the season. Even though some of the recent rains and the cooler temperatures have certainly eased the need, we do monitor our pumps every single day, and we continue to pump, and we do want to extend that water restriction. So if you have any questions, I can try to address those. Otherwise, a motion to approve the consent agenda for September 17th would be appreciated.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. Motion from Mike, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Payment of the bills.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion? With none, those in favor can state aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Anniversary announcements for the month of September. Julie Bleasy, our city clerk, is celebrating 8 years with us. Rhonda Klein, kitchen supervisor over at the golf course restaurant, is celebrating 2 years with us. Our police chief, Brent Balloon, is celebrating 15 years with us. The newly lieutenant officer at the police department, Christopher Lindblom, is celebrating 8. Sarah Schaefer, the administrative assistant over at Public Works, is celebrating her 3rd year already. And Bruce Thompson, our maintenance worker at the Public Works, is celebrating 27 years with us. So congratulations to those employees. Does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion from Mike, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 6 PM.